Hello once again and welcome to Nox Asian Recipe. Today, homemade okara and algae torts. So we need fresh okara and cornstarch, dried algae, garlic powder, and salt. This is fresh okara from our making tofu here at home, soybean pulp. And if you use the flour, of course, you have to take into account that this one is high moisture and the flour should have less than 10% moisture. So let's get our okara into the blending pitcher, and we're going to cut up the dried algae. This is nori, just that kind of algae you would use for sushi. And we're going to cut it up into smaller pieces into the blender together with the okara. Get all the algae in there, good flavor, good texture, good taste. And now let's get our garlic and salt into the blender with the okara. Take it over to the blender. Of course, we need to add some water for blending. We're going to blend this one up into a kind of a liquidy batter. Turn it out to a bowl now, and we're going to mix in some cornstarch. This is a gluten-free recipe. If you didn't care that it had gluten in it, of course, you could replace the starch with flour or half of the starch with flour. You can see the texture, the color from the algae, and we're going to add cornstarch little at a time and mix it in there until we thicken it up. Get some olive oil in there as well. Nok is going to continue to mix this one up until she gets the texture she wants. Keep adding the cornstarch as required until you get the texture. All the cornstarch is going in. So this batter has fresh raw okara, since soybean really should not be consumed raw. It has some anti-nutritional factors when it's raw. Then after we get the texture that we desire, we have a homogeneous batter. The next step is going to be to cook it up. We have to cook this batter up. The okara from soybean, the soybean pulp is raw. So let's cook this up, and this is also going to get rid of the moisture and thicken it up. Just slow heat and constant stirring. Don't worry about the formation of the dry bits, and eventually you mix it up and stir it up into kind of a pre-dough, a pasty dough. Now we're going to work into a little yuca starch so that we can work this into a manageable dough. Again, a little bit at a time, the yuca starch, and just work it into dough. That's it. So now we've got our dough. This is still a little warm, so we're just going to let it rest and cool down. It has no yeast in it, of course, so it doesn't need to rise. We're going to split off about half of this dough to make our lunch today, which are the torts. You could add into this chopped carrots, onions, be creative, other vegetables, etc. We're making it simple today, actually, because we're going to use part of the dough for another recipe. So we're just going to form this into our little patties or torts. And it's as simple as that, just to do as you would do with a hamburger patty. Break off the amount of dough that you need and form it into a little patty. Okay, as we mentioned, we're going to take the leftover dough and we're going to refrigerate it overnight, and we're going to use this one to make dumpling skins. in a future video. All right, here we go. We're ready to fry these up then. Good amount of oil, of course. And you want to heat that up because we're going to cook these torts and brown them. We already cooked the batter, of course, but now we need to make our torts golden color. As we said, you can be creative with this one, and you could have added chopped vegetables to it, or use other kind of flour and whatnot. And when you finish with this one, of course, you can serve it on bread as you would a hamburger if you wish. We're just going to mash these down just as we would a hamburger patty maybe, to aid in the cooking and the browning of the whole patty. Get it crispy on the outside. These are looking really good. Smells delicious. It's a great alternative to meat. Soybean pulp, of course, Okara. And these are just about ready to go. So we're going to serve these up today, our torts, with some lettuce and tomato and some chili sauce, of course. You could have a tortilla or bread, or just as you wish with a side of rice. Enjoy.